The liberal media turns on Jack Smith. It's just a teeny tiny turning of the Queen Mary, but it's starting to show up in the headlines, and I'll give you the major news outlets that are covering it. Welcome to Doug in Exile. This is where the happy patriots are. This is about documenting the end of Joe Biden's run, his Department of Justice under Attorney General Merrick Garland and Special Prosecutor Jack Smith. First, subscribe, give us a like, say hi down in the chat. Here's the first headline. This is from the New York Sun, liberal rag. Jack Smith's withdrawal from Mar-a-Lago case against Trump raises the question. Was his case ever valid? A legal scholar tells The Sun that if the prosecutor were unlawfully appointed, the counts against the 45th president and his employees could be invalid from their inception, meaning all of his cases could be reversed. Here's a continuation. This is by A.R. Hoffman. I've got a couple of articles from him. I really like him. Special Counsel Jack Smith's handoff of his troubled classified documents criminal case to the United States Attorney for the Southern District of Florida is bowing to legal reality and a sign of defiance that Jack Smith intends for his case to carry out even without him. Are those charges, though, still viable? Notice the question in that voice. They would never make this question before. He's the same guy who was illegally appointed a year ago when the Trump defense tried making that case. So why is the media only now starting to question the viability of Jack Smith? That's a cultural change. That's what we're documenting here on the show. Here's the next one from The Sun. Jack Smith in last gasp, notice the language there, in last gasp to save Mar-a-Lago case, declines to end prosecution of Trump's valet and property manager. So he's still going after Nauta and De Oliveira. That's just because they're not covered with the same immunity that Trump is. He can end this thing tomorrow. The special counsel, rather than asking for charges to be dismissed, is handing them off to another federal prosecutor, one appointed by President Biden. So he's saying, here, take this mess, you get into trouble, you go to jail. Also by A.R. Hoffman, special counsel Jack Smith's unwillingness to end the prosecution of President-elect Trump's valet and property manager, as demonstrated by his handoff of his Mar-a-Lago classified documents case to the United States Attorney for the Southern District of Florida, who will do nothing with this. He's not crazy like Jack Smith. An appointment of President Biden is a last-minute maneuver to preserve a precarious prosecution. Once again, notice the language that they're using to describe this thing. It's all how shabby and iffy it is. Wish these guys were reporting on this last year in the same way. There's another one by The Sun. Merrick Garland has one more fateful decision to make. What to do with Jack Smith's final report on Trump prosecution. So remember, Jack Smith released the miniature report, and then Jack Smith said he's going to release a more detailed report. Well, what are they going to do with that report? It's going to be in Merrick Garland's hands. What does he do? He ought to hide it. The special counsel has a last opportunity to make the case against President-elect, whom he could never drag before a jury. That should be his first hint. Look, there's A.R. Hoffman. Man, this guy's been busy. Word that President Biden is privately seething at Attorney General Garland comes as America's chief law enforcement official still has a fateful decision to make. Whether and how to release special counsel's Jack Smith's final report. So this is about the report. It's just going to have the same stuff that we've already seen a million times. So there's nothing new here. There's no threat. It's not scary. It's going to look really embarrassing if Merrick Garland does release this. So I predict that he doesn't. Okay, so now we're going to go to this article from the Washington Free Beacon, who still haven't gotten the message that it's 2025. Here's their headline: 2024 Men of the Year. The Trump prosecutors. Now, why would they be so sexist to only offer it to the men? What about Letitia James? What about Fonny Willis? What's wrong, Free Beacon? By the way, this has no byline of anyone taking credit. It says from the Washington Beacon staff, which I would be hiding behind your staff also instead of taking credit for it so you don't get any backlash from the right. Alvin Bragg, Jack Smith, and Fonny Willis, they're saying she's a man for Man of the Year. Fonny Willis each went in for kill shots against Trump in 2024. They had on their side dozens of spurious felony charges. Okay, oh, now they're spurious. Thanks, Free Beacon. Juries stacked with frothing libs. Thanks, Free Beacon. And a media salivating at the prospect of claiming their long-awaited presidential scalp. Donnie wouldn't be able to wiggle his way out of this one until he did. Willis was first up to bat with 41 charges, primed and ready to go against Trump, all because he politely asked Georgia's Secretary of State to look for some missing votes. Willis's charges included racketeering, which had the media very excited. Willis, after all, knows a thing or two about RICO, the racketeering statute. She threw the book at rapper Young Thug for the alleged crime of writing song lyrics, and after a 2-year trial, scored a hefty sentence of time served. You go, girl. Wow, this thing has James Lilacs written all over it. But her case against Trump was over before it even started. First, an overeager Willis released Trump's mugshot to the public. Thank you, Fonny Willis, granting the former president an iconic political image just in time for the start of the 2024 primaries, and galvanizing voters behind the dawn. Don't take our word for it. Take rapper Chief Keef's, quote, all the blacks finna have my boy back, Mr. Keefe said, and they did. Roughly 30% of black men under 45 voted for Trump in 2024, doubling his performance in 2020. Thank you, Fonny Willis, for delivering the black vote to Trump. You made him into a felon and now a kindred spirit. The nail in Willis's coffin came in January when it was revealed that Willis was secretly banging Nathan Wade, her hand-selected special prosecutor who had no prior prosecutorial experience. He raked in $650,000 for his, quote, hard work with Willis on the case, earnings he used to secretly treat Willis to lavish vacations all around the world. And that's why these people are getting Men of the Year from the Free Beacon. The law forced Wade to resign from the case in March, a big loss for Willis, because somehow her lover had become the brains of their operation. Good old Nathan Wade, the brains of it. Willis followed his fate just before Christmas when a Georgia Court of Appeals removed her from the proceedings. So much winning for the enemies of Trump. Up next was Bragg, the progressive Manhattan prosecutor who ran on campaign promises to go after Trump and touted his record of lawsuits against the real estate tycoon. Bragg followed through on the threat, slapping Trump with 34 felony charges in April 2023. If it whet the appetite of the most ardent anti-Trumpers. This is about the turn for Trump, how it all turned around. Even anti-Trumpers came around to Trump by the time this whole thing was over. They thought they were going to get their guy, Donald Trump. They were going to smash him using Alvin Bragg, and instead they got embarrassed for ever going against Trump in the first place. Biden charged that Trump manipulated his company business records related to $130,000 hush money payment to porn star Stormy Daniels to illegally corrupt the 2016 election. That is the biggest stretch of all time. Never mind that the Federal Election Commission declined to punish Trump for the payments, nor that respected legal analysts found the case to be lacking. That didn't stop the New York jury from finding Trump guilty on all of Bragg's charges. But it was Trump who won the court of public opinion. Quote, Trump is a real N, unquote. Rapper Kodak Black declared after his conviction, quote, he's a soldier. It ain't how he snapped for a N. It ain't even about that. Y'all get off Trump, man, unquote. If you guys know what he just now said, you can provide me a translation down in the comments below. Even Green Party presidential nominee Cornel West jumped on the Trump train after the Bragg verdict, calling the former president a bona fide gangster. Thank you, Cornel West, pseudo-intellectual. I hope you get to keep your job at the university. And finally, there was Jack Smith. According to the media, democracy itself almost died on January 6th in 2024. Smith was to be their standard bearer, leading the crusade against Trump for his alleged crimes against our sacred norms. How'd that work out, Jack Smith? How you feeling these days with the last headlines? The media is turning on you. The wit and sarcasm of this piece by the unnamed editorial board of the Washington Free Beacon tells you everything you need to know. This guy's cooked. Culture turned on Jack Smith, Fonny Willis, Alvin Bragg, and we'll still see about Letitia James, also completely embarrassed in her lawsuit. But on election day, it was Republican voters who were more concerned about threats to democracy in the United States, exit polls found. Following Trump's victory, Smith announced he would retire taking the walk of shame to the U.S. District Court for the District of Columbia, D.C., to dismiss his case against the incoming president. Great work, Jack. You played yourself. Think of all the money he wasted. Think of all the time. 4 years' work down a toilet, all because you followed Merrick Garland, who followed Joe Biden down a hole. Bragg, Smith, and Willis may very well be on their way to collecting unemployment checks, but they can do so with their heads held high as Washington Free Beacon Men of the Year, especially Fonny Willis. This has been a kind of an update. I'm going to keep posting as the media turns on these people, and the media will help guide public opinion, courts, commentators on what to do with these people, because if we're going to throw them in jail, and I believe someone is going to jail, if we're going to be able to prosecute them and gather up the will of the people. See, Trump is not vengeful on this. He's not looking to repeat the past. He just wanted to be president. But if he cares about the country, he'll protect our legal court system from ever doing this again. And by the way, hats off to our legal court system, because most of this stuff, it started to turn even before Trump won the election. Now, if Trump did lose, I believe Jack Smith would still be right there throwing Trump in prison. Same with Merchant. So culture doesn't get too much credit, and our legal system doesn't get too much credit just because we accidentally dodged a bullet. Now we have to reform the legal system so that this stuff can't happen again. And I don't know how you do that. We're going to change the leadership. But guys, as you know, in America, anyone, nearly anyone, can sue nearly anyone for nearly anything. And how do you stop that? I'm Doug in Exile.